I'm back. Still puffing on my country gentleman with some Joe Krantz. I saw something last night that started me thinking. Our former First Lady, Michelle Obama, who's been very vocal in recent weeks about stuff, was doing an interview with somebody, and she made the statement that she thinks as a society we have sheltered our male children as opposed to trying to make our female children strong and that kind of thing. And she posited the idea that it has had the effect of creating very needy, that's not the word she used, entitled, I believe is the word she used, entitled and I'm paraphrasing, but very self-assured, whatever, class of men. And that, her question, her thought is a valid question. The conclusion she was trying to make was that it's created a society of men that treat women poorly and treat everybody poorly and are, misogynistic and sexist and don't think of others, etc. Basically created a society of super stereotypical men. This is my house. I would argue the exact opposite. It has created a couple of generations of men that are incredibly needy, incredibly entitled. I think she's correct on that point. But the idea that it's created this society of overly strong, overly insensitive, woman-hating men is just absolute garbage. What she's trying to do is blame men for the ills of the world. And they are responsible for the ills of the world, exactly half of them. And women are responsible for the other half. It's as simple as that. People are people. But let's dig into what she's talking about. She said it in such a way as to suggest that we've created these monsters that go around dominating and hating women and abusing and harassing and all this crap by coddling them and protecting them and being overprotective and teaching them to be oversensitive and all this stuff. Bull. What it's done has created a society of men that have been coddled and are overprotected and are oversensitive and are needy and all this stuff. It has created a society of over-feminized male people. We have 2 generations at least, probably more than that, but this has been going on since the 70s. or further. If you go back and look at society and the way people were brought up in the 50s, post World War II, and look at, I'm thinking as I'm talking, so forgive me. The idea has been put forth many times that it takes a village to raise a child, that parents are not sufficient in and of themselves to raise their children on their own. They need society. They need their neighbors. They need this. They need that. Well, society stopped being society in the 70s, in the late 60s and 70s. Society started being media. And I don't mean the news organizations. I'm talking about TV, music, that kind of thing. That's what started raising our kids, because people were, for better or worse, too busy out making a living and stuff. And a lot of generations, a lot of people, sorry, there's burly burps going on here. A lot of people have been raised by their televisions. Well, in the 50s, you had things like, Leave It to Beaver, Father Knows Best, and those kind of shows, which, put forth the idea of this perfect society and the American dream and all that kind of stuff, when in fact that's not the way society, real society works. Everything's not perfect. Everything's not solved in 22 minutes. Bad things happen. The effects of those things go on for years and generations in some cases. And it wasn't like, I'll say this, I think society in the 50s was more like media portrayed it than society today is like media portrays it. Then in the 70s, TV, which was raising our kids, started doing a different thing. Instead of having Ward Cleaver and, Father Knows Best and My Three Sons type of fathers and type of relationships with their kids, you started having things like All in the Family, and then later stuff like, Married with Children, Cosby Show, different things like that. Society, media, portrays men as these weak, bumbling idiots. Absolutely. If you watch TV, there are very, very few examples of self-sufficient, thinking, logical male figures. Most of them are bumbling idiots, ridiculed by their families, ridiculed by their friends, ridiculed by their wives. It just goes on and on. So I think instead of creating a class of people or generations of people that grew up like the rifleman's son, he was taught the ways of the world basically in that show. It's created sons that are like Meathead from All in the Family. Just weak-minded, driven by everything but from their own inner beings. All the thoughts and things are generated from society's norms, so to speak. And it is perpetrated and is gone and gone and gone until we have a society today where you have people out in the streets in masks, with little feminine hats on. You know what I'm talking about? I don't want to say it. Feminine body parts, wearing costumes, things like that. It's created an entire generation, or generations of people that believe those sorts of things. And it's been detrimental, absolutely detrimental. Pause this and try to remember something I was thinking. So I think the idea that society has created this class of people that Michelle Obama talks about versus the class of people, the generations of people that I'm talking about, comes back to core beliefs. Our core beliefs in the past have been based on different things. Our morals and things like that were based on different things. They were based on, whether you buy into it or not. They were based on things like biblical morals. They were based on common sense. They were based on right and wrong. And that has been erased. That has been erased completely. Instead, we have people that are drawing their morals and their core beliefs off of things like, Family Guy and The Simpsons and whatever. And it's, instead of having a solid base for our core beliefs and our values and our morals, that base has been replaced by a set of morals and values that come directly from Hollywood. And is that a good thing? Look around. Look around and make up your own mind. You don't have to look far in the last few weeks to see that Hollywood doesn't have its head on straight. I'm getting rained on. So much so that I might have to stop this. I think something that people don't see is they draw their beliefs and their morals and stuff from Hollywood. This is the way people should be. This is the way people should act, blah, blah, blah. And you turn around and look at the people in Hollywood and you see they're acting just exactly opposite of that. I think before this current mess blows over, or gets fully exposed, I should say, you're going to see a lot more people that have been exposed as terrible people. And you've got all this harassment, all this pedophilia, and all this different stuff that's coming out. And for the last 40 years, those people have been the ones that have been teaching our children, what do you expect? And you've got Hollywood that sits there and screams, treat women this way, and then the movies show them doing the exact opposite. You've got Hollywood saying, guns are evil, and I challenge you to find a movie of the genre that doesn't just absolutely glorify not guns but gun violence. Do I think that perpetrates people going out and behaving that way? In one instance, yes. In the other instance, no. I don't think their portrayal of guns turns people into violent killers. I think it turns people into hypocrites. Oh, this is a horrible way for men to behave. Guns are awful. Deadpool's the #1 movie in the country for a number of weeks. It's not difficult to see. But back to Miss Obama. She doesn't believe that crap, or she does believe it. Those are the two options. She either doesn't believe it, but she spouts it anyway, which makes her a hypocrite, a liar, or she does believe it, which makes her an idiot, because it's simply not true. she goes on interviews and goes on Twitter and does all this stuff. And she's influencing a lot of people with her words. Conversely, President Trump goes on Twitter and says a lot of stuff that I think he shouldn't say. Not that I don't necessarily agree with some of it. Not that I think he shouldn't believe it, but he shouldn't say it on Twitter. Two recent instances of this. Deal with Bo Bergdahl, who just got a slap on the wrist. He got a dishonorable discharge. After President Trump came out and candidate Trump came out and said he should be given the death penalty or life in prison or whatever. He was treason. He was a scum, which I happen to believe he was. But there's a big difference between President Trump saying that and me saying it. There's a big difference between President Trump believing it and President Trump saying it. Same thing with Michelle Obama and her husband. They are in a position of influence. The other example is this dude in New York City that just mowed down all these people with a truck. The president has already come out and said he should be given the death penalty and all this stuff. And the defense is just eating it up. They are eating it up because what more basis do you need for a mistrial or getting the case dismissed in general in some scenarios than him tainting the entire jury pool, no matter where they move the trial to. And that will be argued. It's important to remember that words have power. They can be used for good, they can be used for bad, and they can be used to screw things up when you don't intend to. But her notion that that we've created all these monsters running around is preposterous. First place, we don't have all these monsters running around. In the second place, the things that she says created it has created the exact opposite. So that's my rant for today. I thought I had it more organized in my mind, but I don't guess I did. At least it doesn't feel like I did. The only thing I got to say about that is raise your own kids. Raise them the way you see fit. Dig deep within yourself and know the difference between right and wrong and pass that on. We need a couple of generations, probably several generations of kids that can tell the difference. I remember one other thing I was going to say. I might as well say it. When kids are growing up, most of their learning about life, how to be a human being, it's done within the first 3 or 4 years of their life. That does not include discernment and wisdom and the ways of the world, which doesn't happen typically until we get to be, late teenagers and start going through college and getting out there in the real world and seeing what's actually going on. And I believe that has been lost on a lot of parents, and a lot of parenting believes that, or seems to believe, that those first 3 or 4 years is enough time to instill all these values in kids, and it's not. You can teach them to walk and talk and eat and, not punch people and not scream in public and stuff like that. But you can't teach them discernment and wisdom. First of all, you can't teach it. You can teach them to be people that can learn it. There have been a couple of public figures in the last 8 or 10 years that have come out publicly and said parents, paraphrasing, parents basically have no rights to raise their children the way they see fit. Society needs to do it. There was Hillary Clinton said something along those lines. There was a newscaster who was pretty popular there for a while that was saying that, the rights of parents need to be given to society. As if enough damage hasn't been done. So, I won't make you sit here and listen to me babble any longer. Let me know what you think. I would be interested. Very interested, actually. So until next time, enjoy your pipe. Ignore the hype.